Hello and welcome to the Talking with the Experts online business summit. Get ready to gain invaluable insights from industry leaders, uncover innovative strategies and elevate your business to new heights. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a startup founder or a seasoned professional, this summit is designed for you. Let's unlock your full potential and drive your success. Stay tuned for an exciting lineup of experts ready to share their secrets. Let's get started. Learn to conquer fear and unlock your potential. Join Antony Gaddie as he shares his confidence model, success tips, and the Gaddie Pitch techniques for growth. I want to introduce you to Antony. He is the creator of the Gaddie Pitch, one of the best known pitching techniques in Australia and around the world. His values around humanity are transparent, and he has a clear vision to facilitate uplift for at least 1 billion people in the world by December 2035. He lectured marketing to the master's student at the Melbourne University and also at RMIT. His intellectual property achieved some of the highest feedback scores on record from the CEOs at the CEO Institute. He's overcome a legacy of abuse, and against the odds, he created 3 businesses and a terrific family with his wife. He has 2 teenage kids. And what's not commonly known about Antony is that he was suspended from kinder at the age of 5. Well, okay, so a bit of a rebel there, Antony. And I'll let Antony explain that a little bit later. And to share the secret sauce to success model with us, please welcome Antony Gaddie.
Well, thanks, Rose, and thank you for having me on the summit. Thank you for the invitation, greatly appreciated. And thanks also for that really warm intro. The suspension story is a true story. I did get suspended at the age of 5, actually for cutting my own and then a few other kids' hair at school. And when I look back on it, I think they should have rather given me some kind of a reward for the creativity rather than suspending me and making me stay at home for a week. But anyway, I thought I'd spend a minute just sharing where all of this is coming from and why I hope some people will care. And then separately, I'll give a little bit of context. And the key for this morning's session together is I wish to share a model, and I'll talk about who invented the model. But ideally, I'd love it if everyone in the summit was able to walk away with 1 or 2 very practical tools that can be used. And ideally, if you can use the tools to create uplift for whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I'm going to say for your definition of success. And this photo is my favorite photo of all time. It's taken about 14 or 15 years ago. I had a little bit more hair then than I have now. And it's actually of me with an amazing woman called Christina. And the reason that this photo is my favorite of all time is Christina was actually my godmother. She passed away, unfortunately, about 4 or 5 years ago. But she was my godmother when I was growing up in South Africa. And she anchored me through some really turbulent times. And the reason that this photo is so special is when I was a kid, age 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6, we used to go to this beach where we are now, Durban. And in those days, she wasn't allowed on the beach unless she was wearing maid's overalls and physically minding the white children, me and my sister, because there were big signs all over the place saying whites only. So this was in the thick of racist apartheid South Africa. And here we are all these years later, holding hands on the beach. I went back to South Africa with my Australian wife to show her where I grew up and to meet Christina and spend some time with Christina. And here we are on the beach, holding hands. The waves are rolling in, and my wife just called us. And as we turned around, she took the photo because, of course, by now, apartheid had fallen. And there we stood as equals. So that tells you a little bit about me. For me, empowerment and equality are really important. In terms of the context of the tool itself, the system itself that I'm going to share, for me, childhood was a very dangerous place. It's probably a good way to describe it. Sexual abuse incident, age 4. Mum and dad split up when I was 5. Mum remarried a British guy and physically had to drag me at the airport away from my dad. I didn't want to leave my dad in South Africa. And We got off to the UK. That marriage didn't last, so we got back to South Africa. Um, my my dad then remarried. He married a woman who basically abused the heck out of me for the next 20 plus years on a daily basis, psychologically, emotionally, verbally. She beat me up a few times physically, never sexual, but still it was a tough time. And that woman, Christina, that I showed you, she was a big anchor through all of this. And then, unfortunately, when I was 15, my mum actually took her own life. I ended up moving into her house alone, basically to run away from my stepmom. And when I think about it, my son's now 16. I look at him and I think about him in a big 4 bedroom mansion by himself. And I was a year younger than he is now. And I just think, what the heck? Like, how did I manage? How did I get through that? And more than getting through that, I look at my life now and I consider the whole thing to be a complete miracle. I am married to the most amazing woman, Simone. We have 2 beautiful, happy, healthy, funny, normal children. And it was about 3 days ago that myself and my wife were talking, and we looked at each other and we said, gee, it's actually amazing. We have everything that we need, everything. And when I said that, and we said that to each other, I just recognized the miracle of it all. And the thoughts that came to mind for me were, this should not have been possible. If I look where the journey started and then where it is now, it shouldn't have been possible. The possibility of turning to alcohol or to drugs or even to suicide, I'd say, were moderate to high, but somehow I didn't do that. And the question I have asked myself a lot is, how did I manage not to do that? And not only not to do that, how did I get to be where I am now? And I couldn't be more grateful. You know, we've got the Gaddie Pitch, there's a range of businesses, and we're doing things. My clear vision is to facilitate uplift for at least 1 billion people by December 2035. And we're making amazing headway with that. So the chalk and cheese of it, the difference between past and present, and sort of past and present future, it's just amazing. And when I asked, how did I do it? That's really what I want to share today. I've got to start by saying that I made the initial decision. At a fairly young age, I made the initial decision that better was possible. Once I made the decision that better was possible, that a much better life was possible, some incredible mentors and human angels began to turn up. So if I can share one insight to start off with, it's that in terms of creating your own success, so when I say reaching your full potential, your true success, I mean by your definition of true success. So the first insight that I can share is that all success starts with a decision. All success starts with a decision and or a belief that something is possible. Once I began to catch up with mentors, there's one mentor that really stands out. Her name is Dr. Merle Friedman. She's a psychology PhD. I met her. She was a senior lecturer at the university where I studied in South Africa. And she taught me the model that I'm about to show you. So I must give full credit to Merle Friedman. And you'll see the spelling of her name as soon as I show you the slides. So again, I will share screen so that I can talk you through.
Jack, it's interesting to hear from your past, you know, all the trauma that you've gone through, and you know, that you have built a life of giving and sharing. It's a credit to you.
Thanks, Rose. Really appreciate that. And it's interesting, even there, I had a bit of a challenge to work through because I think I'm naturally a very generous human being. But I worked out over time that generosity by itself was not going to help me reach my full potential.
Mm.
What I mean by that is I run a strategic marketing consulting business, and I worked out over a period of time that I'm quite good, thankfully, at attracting leads. And I worked out how to do that. And then I became very good at closing deals. But what I realized, speaking about generosity, is that over a period of about 15 years, I closed a whole lot of deals which actually weren't all that good for me. So in some cases, we helped other organizations and people to do amazing things and to accelerate their business, in some cases by tens of millions of dollars. And in most cases, I asked for sometimes a reasonable consulting fee, sometimes a low consulting fee, and in a few cases, nothing.
Mm.
So that I would call generosity.
Yes, absolutely. Antony, I'll let you get on with your presentation, and thank you again for joining us.
Awesome. So can you see my screen by now?
Yes, I can.
All right, terrific. So this is Merle's secret sauce, Merle. Here is the spelling. Whoops, I'll get to it shortly. The spelling of her name is on the next slide. Think of your journey, whatever your journey might be, as let's compare it to the journey of a tree. So you've got a seed over here on the left, and ideally the seed germinates and a little root comes out. And over time, the tree takes a journey and grows a stem and some leaves and some fruit. And if we are able to nurture the soil, and if we are able to water the soil and to look after the tree, ideally over time, the tree becomes really tall and it reaches its full potential and it bears its maximum amount of fruit. So I'll ask everyone in the session today to think of yourself as the tree. And the first question I want to pose to you, and I want to give you a moment to think about it, is what does your full tree look like? In other words, what does true success look like for you? I know in terms of society, we're very often trained to think of success as huge amounts of money. But I've asked my kids some questions. I've asked them to name me a few really famous singers and pop stars who've got tons of money. And then we've asked the question about, are these people really happy? Are they all really happy? So let me leave the question with you for a moment. I want you to reflect for half a minute and just write down, if you can, one sentence, maybe two. What does true success look like for you? For me, it's about having enough money to do all the things that I want to do. And it's actually about being the best father and the best husband that I can be and traveling the world and having an impact, facilitating uplift for other people and for the planet. That's success for me. What does success look like for you? Take a moment to contemplate that. All right. So now hopefully you've got a sentence or two around what success looks like for you. I'm going to ask you next to think of a person who you think has achieved amazing success. And it could be anyone. It could be someone who's alive or who's since passed away. It might be an elite athlete. It might be a politician, a leader, someone who you've seen in a movie, an actor. And can I actually ask for some feedback? Is anyone able to put in the chat what your definition, who your hero is? Who's one person who you would name as being really successful? They achieved their full potential. So some of the people that come up in the workshops that we share, people quite often go to Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. I've heard Mandela mentioned many times. So if we think about these people, sorry, Rose, are you, am I able to dialogue with you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I believe that a hero is someone who shares their success with others. I don't have a particular person in mind. I think that a hero has many facets, and it could be saving somebody, it could be, but yeah, to me, is someone who shares their success with others, is not afraid to be seen and or be heard. And even those ones that can be quiet heroes in the background, that don't want to be seen or heard by anybody, but just shares what they've achieved.
Wow, what an awesome and fascinating definition of someone who's successful. Most of the people that we hear when we ask this question are celebrities and commercial heroes. For the sake of sharing the insights, I'm going to run with Elon Musk. So a question that I'll ask about Elon Musk as we start to build this model of success is, did Elon need to take risks in order to get to where he is, in order to do what he's done? Did he need to become confident with taking some risks?
Yeah, I think everyone has to take a risk um, to to find success. I think success doesn't come automatically. I don't think. I think you need to try. You need to put some effort into it.
Okay, so that's the first ingredient to true success. We've got to become okay with taking some risks. Next question. Would it have been possible for Elon to do what he did without being comfortable with failing a little bit, or maybe even many times along the way? So I'll call it falling over and taking the learnings and then getting up again.
Yeah, I don't like the word failure. I think I like to use them as learning opportunities. That's what I like to call them.
Okay, absolutely. So learning opportunities, times when we stumble, I guess we can either see it as a failure or as a learning opportunity. And Rose, you're saying every time, look at it as a learning opportunity. So that's the next one. You've got to become comfortable with making some mistakes and taking the learnings. So Rose, can I ask you then, um, what are some of the things that you'd say you are good at, and what are some of the things that you would like to become good at?
I think I'm good at being a podcast host.
Yep.
I think I'd like to be better at making money.
All right. So you're an amazing podcast host. I've seen some of your stats, and you'd like to become better at making money. So what you've just described are skills. And we can be confident with various skills, but our confidence varies from skill to skill. I've just got a few examples here. So maybe a certain person is very good at attracting leads. They're not quite as good at closing deals. A heck of a lot of people are really fearful of public speaking. Maybe they're really good at being a parent, but in your case, Rose, you're labeling one that's a little bit lower that you want to make higher as making money. So if we consider these to be skills that we have, they're all bars of self-confidence. And we need these skills, and we need these, I'm going to call them these different confidences, in order to get to the higher goal here, which is your definition of true success. Now, what I'm going to disclose here is actually Merle's secret sauce. This is the ultimate insight. What are some of the things which what are some of the things which parents and or teachers typically tell children which are negative? What are some of the things that we may have heard parents, whether it was ours or somebody else's, teachers, whether they're talking to us or talking to somebody else? What are some of the negative things that we hear these people say?
You could do better. I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah, you could do better. I'm disappointed in you, or you silly Billy, or you're no good at that. You can't do that. You're not coordinated enough to play tennis.
Yes, all things like all negative things that erode self-esteem.
Yeah.
And confidence in oneself.
Yeah, great call. And the challenging thing is, as young kids, we don't yet have the sophisticated thinking and the level of discernment to put screens up against this negative speaking. So very often as young kids, we'll actually take these things on, and it starts to form our view of ourselves. and it starts to form the basis of this thing that we call self-worth. So now, Rose, what's the flip side of that? What are some of the positive things that parents or teachers may have said? And we always look for these things from our parents. Sometimes we don't get it from our parents, but actually, very often there are other adults around who we can get positive things and positive affirmations from. So, what are some of the positive things that parents, teachers, and/or caregivers might say to young kids?
Good job for getting your work done on time. Good job for, I don't know, cleaning your room. Good job for winning that ribbon in that event, stuff like that. Positive feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. If I remember back to my own childhood, I know my mum was fraught with issues, but she did give me a lot of positivity. I remember she said to me, Anthony, you're really good. Your vocabulary is amazing. From a young age, she told me multiple times, the way you articulate yourself, it's amazing. And I grew to believe that my vocabulary was amazing. As a result, I became good at languages. I speak four of them now, and I can hear the different sounds in the different languages. And I'm learning a fifth one now with my kids, French. And that came from the belief that I could master a language, which came from my mum telling me, you're really good at English. So I wrote down some of the things that I heard. I heard from my dad, you're very coordinated. My mum told me I'm good at languages. My dad explained to me one day that you can actually do, Anthony, you can do anything that you put your mind to. So I took that on as part of self-worth. I took that on as part of my essence. So final question, and then I'll show the final insight on this, Matt. What would you say are some of the experiences that kids might have along the way that positively contribute to self-worth? And I'm thinking group experiences. What are some experiences that kids have in groups that might be positive?
Playing a sport.
Absolutely. So you're talking about a team sport?
Yeah, like soccer or football or um, uh, what else is there? Netball, basketball.
Yep. So playing a team sport, working in with other people, getting some kind of a good outcome, getting some kind of good feedback. Again, positive experience. One of the examples that I absolutely love is Scouts. So in Scouts, kids are typically taught things in a group, and very often they need to collaborate and cooperate to produce an outcome. And again, if we think about Scouts, a lot of the things that are done there, tying ropes, tying knots, doing this, doing that, and you come out with a positive outcome. So if we combine that with the positive things that adults say to us, those are the things that contribute, well, those are some of the things that contribute to self-worth as a kid. And the key idea is if we want to achieve true success, being this goal up top here, not only do we need to go after improving the skills, because if we improve the skills, then if I become better at leading people, then this bar grows taller. But here's the ultimate insight that I want to share. If we go after improving our self-worth, if we can find ways to improve our self-worth, self-worth is the platform upon which all these confidence bars rest. So if I improve my self-worth, what happens is this. The whole platform raises and all of these skills go higher simultaneously. Or my confidence in all of these skills goes higher simultaneously. And Rose, there's a line that we call the I'm willing to try line. And think of the I'm willing to try line as a line that lives from left to right here. And the moment our confidence bar touches that line or goes higher, we become willing to try that thing. And remember, we said towards the beginning that success requires us to feel okay with taking some risks. So again, I'll bring it all back down to self-worth. The key insight I want to share is, for me, against a backdrop of some really big challenges, somehow I found a way to get mentorship and to read all the self-help books I could possibly lay my hands on, and to attend courses with various different people. I couldn't get enough of it. And what I was searching for was insights that would help me to grow my self-worth. Now my self-worth is a lot stronger. So in what that means in business is I don't just go for generosity. I do go for generosity in both directions. We call that mutuality. When there's mutuality in a deal, it's very interesting. Where it's just generous, me being generous. Rose, if you were really generous to me and you just, you gave to me all the time, my boat would rise and I'd be really grateful and really happy and I'd love you for it. But if I never gave anything back to you, and if no one gave anything back to you, your boat would go down a little bit or it would go down a lot. So if we bring it back to self-worth, ideally we'll always set things up for mutuality so that both boats can rise. And think of mutuality as the opposite of extraction, where we meet someone, we think, what can we get from this person? The question I ask is, what can we do together? How can we support each other's success? It's just a slightly different approach. But I really attribute a lot of what's going on in my environment to that approach and to doing work on self-worth. Yeah, how does that resonate?
It makes a lot of sense, Anthony. You're right. If you continue to give, and you're not getting anything back, you're feeling that that you're, you feel a bit used, I guess, would be, the thing. And, it's got to be something that's mutually beneficial. I think if you just keep giving all the time, you feel your self-worth diminished when you're not receiving anything back in return.
Yeah. And it's funny, Rose, I used to do that all the time because I was afraid of not being generous. But when I look back on it, that fear of not being generous came from lack of self-worth. Once I grew the self-worth and I realized where I stand and what I actually deserve, I became much better at asking for what I need and much better at recognizing when a deal is win-win and when it's not win-win. And when it's not win-win, I just say no. And I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can, become a people pleaser. A lot of us are people pleasers because of our, childhood traumas or whatever the traumas that we've lived through our lives, or we've not learned any differently than to, please people all the time. And we gauge our self-worth on, people pleasing. And, we need to stop doing that. We need to stand on our own and be happy with who we are. And give as generously as we can without forfeiting our self-esteem and our self-worth.
What a great call. I'll leave one last insight just in terms of the self-worth. So, Rose, what you're talking about there, people pleasers, I'd suggest the self-worth looks a little bit more like this. But once we stop people pleasing and we recognize who we are and where we stand, I think the self-worth looks a lot more like that. And of course, when the self-worth is high, as I mentioned before, our confidence across the board, across all these different areas that we might name, goes up, and the likelihood of achieving success goes up. The last distinction to share is that self-worth, increasing self-worth, comes from a number of areas, including what we say to ourselves and how we treat ourselves. A lot of us think self-worth comes from outside and, gee, I wish the world would treat me better. My invitation to anyone who's thinking that way is to think, how can I treat myself better in the first instance? Because the world will treat me as I instruct the world to treat me. If I wake up in the morning and I have the discipline to do a meditation and to eat something healthy for breakfast and go for a run, straight away I have fed my self-worth. I have done things that will nourish me. And if I talk to myself during the day in kind terms and don't set myself up for stress and for failure, again, I'm feeding the self-worth. The higher the self-worth grows, the higher the confidence grows. The higher the confidence grows, the more likely I am to take these risks and to be comfortable with making mistakes. And of course, if I can grow the purple and the skills and these two things over here, that has been my experience of being able to get closer to my definition of true success.
Absolutely wonderful, Antony. I agree with you 100% on that. Antony, where can people find you if they want to work with you or indeed learn a little bit more about your pitch?
Two ways. One is to simply send me an email, Antony at symphony7, SYMPHONY, and then the digit 7.earth. And then separately, Rose, I'll extend an invitation through you. I don't want to invite people to something without going through you. We've actually got a workshop coming up in which we'll share a knockout proposal template, which clients of ours have used to close literally tens of millions of dollars of business. And also the next step in the confidence journey, we'll share the confidence wellspring, where we'll learn that support is the number one thing to increase confidence and to, I can't say ensure success on the journey, but to dramatically increase our chances of success.
Absolutely. Antony, thank you so much for sharing the road to success with us and how we can, find ourselves developing our self-worth and building up our lives, both in business and in our personal way. Now, you can find Antony on LinkedIn at Antony Gaddie, and Gaddie is Gaddie. You can also find him at GaddiePitch.com and symphony7.earth. Antony, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much for having me, Rose. And thanks to everyone who's joined.
Thank you for joining us at the Talking with the Experts Online Business Summit. I'm Rose Davidson, and it's been an honour to host this incredible event. We hope you found the insights and strategies shared by our esteemed speaker valuable. Remember, your journey to success doesn't end here. Keep applying what you've learned, stay connected with our community, and continue to push boundaries of your business. Until next time, keep thriving and striving for excellence. Goodbye, and see you at our next summit.